Oh my gosh, right. So after that kiss with my best friend's boyfriend, I will be having hot sweats later when I get out of this car thinking about what I might have said. It felt like the closest I was ever going to get to being Snow White.
Our passenger in this episode of Show on the Road is one of Britain's most talented and lovable media personalities. She lived in different neighbourhoods growing up, but this little home counties village I'm driving into right now is Giovanna Fletcher's favourite. Winner of I'm a Celebrity back in 2020, her talent knows no bounds. An author of 12 books, a star of West End shows, presenter of a hit children's TV show, and for the past 8 years, she's hosted her own hit weekly podcast. Add to that being the wife of a pop star, a mum to 3 boys, and an eventful childhood, Giovanna has quite a story to tell us. Brought to you by Auto Trader, the UK's largest automotive platform, this is Show on the Road. I'm Alex Legui, driving a Mercedes EQE into the village of Ingatestone, right next to a place where Giovanna Fletcher used to work. And there she is.
Well, this is lovely.
Hi.
Look at this.
How are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
Oh, yeah, good, thank you.
Very spiky handles.
How are you? How was your morning?
It's been lovely.
Good.
It's been a lovely morning. It's been so weird even driving to this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'm just already flooded with memories and feelings and yeah, it's incredible.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. If you think, like, I spent probably 10 years of my life here from 9 to 19. And I think they're such informative years.
Yeah.
Even this space here, the community hall is massive, so bring it on.
How much has it changed or just not?
There were no automatic doors when I was here. And there's a very posh coffee shop that wasn't there before. But really, like, looking around, it's the same.
Wow.
Isn't that bonkers? It's been like 20 years.
Yeah, that's nice.
Or 30 years since I started coming here. So every Sunday we'd come here and we'd do amateur dramatics for 3 hours. And I'd come and do the work on the props or do the lighting or anything I could just to stay part of it.
Oh.
Mum and Dad would come here on a Friday night and see all their mates. We would play out back doing various little games. Or come around here actually. I can remember kissing my best friend's boyfriend at the time. We kissed around there. It was all orchestrated. It was orchestrated by her.
What?
Because I couldn't go to senior school without having kissed a boy. So that actually happened. How's that for a start?
That's amazing. I love it. That totally sets the tone for this episode. Are you ready for a trip down memory lane?
I think so. I don't know why I'm scared, but I feel like I'm scared.
So Ingatestone was one of the few places that you lived as a child.
Yeah.
Where else? Where were you born?
So I was born in Harold Wood, which is only a little bit down the road, but then I lived in Canning Town for the first 3 years of my life. We lived above a cafe because my dad worked in the cafe downstairs. We owned the cafe, and then we all lived upstairs, which was great fun. And we'd always be going downstairs to, chat to all the people that had come in to buy their breakfast or their lunch. And Dad actually had to give a few more chips to some people, knowing that we would gravitate towards them and start pinching them. So that was Canning Town until we were 3, and then we moved to Barkingside, a much more built up area, lots of people, just very, very different. Whereas this, it just felt so quaint and quiet and villagey. And I can remember my first walk to school on my own, and which felt like a massive thing. And just there being things like birds on the side of the road that wouldn't just fly off as soon as you looked at them. Like, they'd let you walk past them and they wouldn't even move. It felt like the closest I was ever going to get to being Snow White.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it felt magical, like coming here and suddenly us all having our own bedrooms and just this space that we just simply didn't have in the cafe. We didn't have it in Barkingside. As a family, it just felt like such a massiff thing. And this is my road. Oh, Willow Green.
What's it called? Willow Green.
It just that feeling of
down here on the right
Oh, they've changed the front. They've turned it into you go in and you come out.
This. Oh,
so we used to have, yes. So they've changed the front door, but we used to have like a willow tree in the front, obviously for willow green. But we lived there for from 9 till when I was 18. But this here next to it is actually the Anglo-European. So this is a secondary school. So obviously when we first moved here, we didn't go here straight away.
Wow.
But it was like an international school. And that's a little drum studio there. So we would actually be able to hear the kids playing drums in our garden. And that's the school pool, an outdoor pool that, we definitely went into when we weren't allowed to.
I mean, it's literally next door.
Yeah, literally. Our school, commute was very, very simple. That was it. Yeah, it just felt great. Like you were instantly part of the community. They've built loads of this, so that block wasn't there before.
Anglo-European school.
Yeah.
And you had 2 spells here, I gather.
Yes, so I was here year 7 and 8, but then I went to Sylvia's for 9, 10 and 11. So I came back to do my A-levels. And by that point, it's a very different world, And also I was different. I've been travelling into London for 3 years on my own. So I guess I was a bit more independent when I came back.
How much were you happier in this house and this school generally?
I was so much happier here. So much happier. I got really badly bullied actually in Barkingside, really badly bullied. So coming here, it being a smaller school, it feeling like all the houses, it just felt like such a safe place in every way. The fact that we could walk to school on our own, we'd constantly be going around this, around Willow Green and on our bikes and our scooters. Our mum and dad, they were never worried about us. Yeah. And there was just so much freedom. Like even from here, we'd go on our bikes down to Heybridge or down to Seymour Field. You felt free.
Yeah.
And I think, if I think back to my childhood and what I would love to give my children and what I hope I'm giving my children is that sense of freedom. Because I think there's so much fear about the things that could happen. But it's that whole thing of, letting something go. What if you fall? But what if you fly? And actually just seeing your kids when they have that sense of freedom and what it does for their confidence and everything like that. It's just brilliant. This is where I used to work, in the florist there.
What, this ginger tree?
Just over there, it's shut. Oh no, it used to be the pet shop.
Travel agents?
Yeah, the travel agents, because basically the guy's son used to work in there on a Saturday, Adam. And so Adam would be there, I'd be cleaning the buckets, and I always have to go in to see Adam for something.
So, there's one other place nearby that I'd like to visit before we head to Chelmsford. Okay. And while we're on our way, I just want to clear something up.
Okay.
Your mum, Kim, is not Argentine, right?
She's not Argentinian at all, no.
How has that rumour come about?
Up on Wikipedia.
Right.
So some
random human then. Okay.
I imagine a McFly fan from Argentina has gone, we're claiming her mum.
Brilliant.
And so they put that on there and it comes up so much in interviews. And Kim is not a very...
No.
Argentine name.
No, that's true. But your dad is definitely Italian.
He is absolutely Italian. And I found out through one of those sort of DNA type tests that actually I'm slightly more Italian. I'm like 50-something% Italian. Dad came from a tiny little village in Campania called Valva, which is up in the mountains. And when you are in the mountains like there, you're so isolated from other places that everything sort of situates there. So, for hundreds of years, there weren't many people coming and going, I guess, from different places. So I'm slightly more Italian than I am British.
Brilliant. And what does being slightly Italian mean to you?
Means that I really like my wine and pasta.
Fair play.
I think that sense of family being really important and, knowing where your priorities lie within that, I think, and it's hard, isn't it? Because what comes down to heritage and actually what comes down to what you see. My nonna, so my dad's mum, she's such a hard worker. She was such a force. And so Valva's like this little farming community, really. And so everyone's just, they get their hands dirty and they get on with it. So I think on some level, maybe just always going back every summer, going to Valva, seeing how they all lived there, it had a massive impact on how we are and what that sense of what is important, being kind, being generous, looking out for each other. I think that's probably just been so displayed.
That's incredible. Yeah. That like inherited resilience, inherited hard working essence that you talk of. And you did a good few drives in Italy on family holidays in a Mercedes, right?
Yes, in a Mercedes. We had Ford Mondeo at one point as well. Thank you very much. But yeah, the Mercedes. Oh, when we got the Mercedes, it felt so fancy to get a Mercedes.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of drives to Italy, and it felt like such a big event. I don't know how Mum and Dad managed to fit all of our stuff in, because we had a lot of stuff. And actually, well, I guess in lots of ways they didn't fit it in, because every trip I had the cooler box under my feet, so I used to sit cross-legged. I mean, I had the lunch to hand at any point, and there'd always be points of the journey where Mum would be like, "Giovanna, get the sandwiches out, let's just eat." But yeah, it was always a tight squeeze.
So, tell us where we are.
We are at the church. It's the Catholic church in Ingatestone, and this used to be our church that we used to go to every Sunday.
But it's just beautiful, isn't it?
It's so gorgeous.
And it does not look like a quote-unquote conventional church.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, because it doesn't... if you were driving past, I don't even think, apart from the, holy figure standing there, I don't think you would actually think of it as a church. I mean, I'll be honest, Dad's obviously a very religious man.
Yes.
And obviously as kids we would go along quite begrudgingly. However, it was that weird sense of it's where you had to be.
Yeah.
And there'd always be, the boy that you fancied would be there with his family. So it'd be a bit like, okay, I'll come. I'll come.
If I have to.
Yes. Yeah, and it's a weird thing. I always find now, even though I don't go to church anymore, if someone asked me my religion, I would say that I'm Catholic. I had my Holy Communion and everything like that. But I think I'm not as religious as my family were. I would say. However, saying that, I always find that when life is a bit busy, hectic, my mind's a bit where I love a church. I love sitting down in a church, and there is something about the fact that it's a place where people come together, whatever's going on, whether it's a birth, a death, a wedding. There's so many big celebrations that happen in churches that pull people together. It's that sense of community, isn't it? It's everyone coming together, which for Dad especially, it's something that he really, really cherished, and he really wanted us to be a part of. And I think no matter what it's called, having that faith, having that hope is brilliant. Oh, by the way, I got a puncture in the snow here on this road.
Oh no! Oh, you on your own?
Yes.
Oh, horrendous!
Puncture in the snow. What could puncture my tyre in the snow? Absolutely ridiculous.
If I say the word Dukes to you,
yes.
What do you think of?
So Duke's was the nightclub in Chelmsford.
Okay.
It was the place to be. And there was a point, I've got to say, we weren't very adventurous. We were going there every Monday, every Thursday, every Friday, possibly not a Saturday, because I think Saturday it turned into an over 21s.
Oh.
But we would be there as much as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just absolutely brilliant.
You mentioned Sylvia's, that's Sylvia Young's.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, that's a performing arts school, isn't it?
Yeah.
To what extent do you feel like that choice was a bit of a byproduct of what was going on around you?
So when I was in Barkingside and being bullied, my way of getting through those moments, so being, left on your own quite a lot, I would walk around the field and I would make up little stories, I would sing little songs, and that was how I got through it, right? And so you've got this whole other side, that this creativity and this playfulness that's building up, that simply wouldn't have been there had I had other people around. And it's only when I got to Ingatestone that suddenly I was part of the amateur dramatics group and, you know, part of the school productions and stuff. And that whole side came alive, and that wouldn't have even been there, I don't think, had that not have happened. But Sylvia's was just a massive, it was just a magical part of my life, you know. And I can remember the only reason I even knew of Sylvia's was because Sylvia was on Live and Kicking. You know, she was on a children's TV show on a Saturday morning talking about the school, and the little strapline at the bottom of the screen said, phone this number for a free prospectus. I phoned up, gave them my address, got this prospectus through, saw the school fees, but then also saw that you could apply for a scholarship. So basically filled it all in, sent it off without even telling my mum and dad. And then I got a letter through for the audition. And then I had to tell mum and dad that I'd applied.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were your folks' reaction to you doing all this without them knowing?
Do you know what? They were just kind of like, oh, okay. Because by that point, I guess I'd had loads of solos in the school plays. I'd joined the amateur dramatics. I played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Like, I'd kind of taken on the leads at the community club, at the community centre. And so I guess they already knew that that's where my passion was. And they just kind of went along with it. But I mean, I had no background in dancing. You know, I could act and I could sing because of all this stuff with amateur dramatics, but, you know, there are kids that go and they dance every week, and that was just not me.
Yeah.
But thankfully, this would not happen now, but thankfully back then, the dance teacher basically checked my flexibility. So he made me touch my toes and things like that. And it was like, great, see you later. And then about a month later, they phoned and they said, look, the scholarship place is gone. However, we really like her, and Sylvia would like to offer her a deal basically where Sylvia pays half of your school fees.
No way.
Yeah, so basically you pay it back over time if you do work through the agency. But the school is so small, it's like 40 people, ranging from year 5 to year 11. Every year has like 20 people in it. And, you know, essentially you realise once you're there, I mean, I remember there was a day where we got told off by the academic headmaster for something. And he was saying to us, you know, about being more respectful and realising, you know, realising what an honour it is to be there, and the effort that Sylvia puts in to make all of us the best that we can be. And he was like, you know, how many of you here have got help from Sylvia to pay your school fees? And I kid you not, nearly every single child put their hand up.
Wow.
Like, if Sylvia believes, and she's still like that now. You know, she is such a force to be reckoned with.
That means you were travelling on your own, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
What age would that have been?
13. I loved it.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved getting on that train, feeling so independent. You know, I love the fact that I was a kid, so I was small, so I could kind of squeeze into the small spaces. I'd never get a seat, but I'd sit on the floor quite comfortably and listen to like J-Lo or Jerry Halliwell. I was a massive fan of those two, especially in year 11, and do my homework on the floor of the train on the way in. But there was that sense of, just independence. And I loved anything back then by Jane Green or Adele Parks. Jane Green had a brilliant book that I think I must have read when I was about 14 called Jemima J. And it's just a really beautiful love story, actually. But I think as a 14-year-old, when you are going through those insecurities,
which you were as well.
Yeah, to kind of to read that account and feel like you're reading adult fiction. Do you know what I mean? That switch, I think, from reading young adult to fiction that your mum or other adults are reading, feels like a massive deal.
Before we carry on, I would like you to press that button there and have a look in the centre for some snacks.
Snacks! We love a snack. Oh! Thank you very much. We've got Percy Pigs and roasted and salted peanuts.
Why have we got Percy Pigs and roasted salted peanuts?
Well, because when I'm on long drives, I think this is my go-to. A Percy Pig is my go-to. It's kind of like, it gives me a little bit of joy as I drive along. And then usually I realise that there's probably no nutritional value, so I add in a bit of nuts, but I have to go for a roasted and salted nut because, you know, You want a bit of flavour and a bit of salt. It keeps you going.
Oh, okay.
come
Is it
on.
interesting that you're going for the
For the nuts.
peanuts?
Yeah. Do you like a nut?
Yes, thank you.
To be honest, these nuts remind me of the community centre.
Why?
Only because there'd always be nuts at the bar. This is Chelmsford.
But it's changed somewhat.
It has changed.
Where was Duke's?
I feel like it was, is it this way or that way? Is it left or right?
You've got a funny story about Duke's.
Yes.
Tell.
So me and a few girlfriends had gone out, but we had decided that it was going to be just a drink in a Wetherspoons, just the one, and very, very casual. Brilliant, love this idea. And on our walk back to the station, we had to walk past Duke's, although you could go around the front. Anyway, so me and I think I was with my friend Heather at the time. I can't remember which one of us said it. We were like, should we just go in? Should we just go to Duke's? We're like, yeah, great. And once we had that in our minds, that's what we were doing. We went up to Pat. He was the bouncer, and he was always there, Pat. And he just literally looked us up and down and went, "Can't come in, girls. It's beach night." We're like, "What?" He was like, "You're wearing jeans. You can't. It's beach themed. You can't come in wearing jeans." So instead of going, "Oh, it's all right. We weren't going to come in anyway. Let's just go home," we went around the back of the bins. We took our jeans off. We pulled our vest t-shirts down. So we turned our vest tops into skirts and walked in with our heels, vest top as a skirt, and just our bra.
Incredible.
I mean, also,
Pat must have loved it.
we were very dedicated to the cause, very dedicated to going out. And also, it does make me think that at 18, I probably was wearing, nicer bras, because there was still that novelty. We are always dedicated to a night out, and it used to be endless fun going to Duke's. And and it's always funny. I'd left by the time my brother was old enough to go there. But it was always fun bumping into my sister on a night out, and also feeling like, this is what you do, and I know you've done it for years, and now here I am, and what are you going to tell me off for? Oh, the YMCA! Oh my gosh, right. So after that kiss with my best friend's boyfriend, I had one visit to the YMCA, and I had a kiss with a boy who, it was like an under 18s night. And he had had strawberry chewing gum that he took out to snog me, and the snog was not a good snog. It was proper washing machine stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I still cannot have strawberry chewing gum. No.
He's ruined it for you because of that kiss.
Yeah.
Can we name and shame him?
I don't know his name. I didn't see him again.
I never knew his name.
The strawberry chewing gum guy, you know him.
He probably knows him as well. He's there like, oh no, I was that guy. If you're that guy, you have to contact us and let us know. So, this is Bond Street in Chelmsford, and we're round the back of what Debenhams used to be.
Yes, because this never used to be here before. So basically, I used to work in the florist in Ingatestone. Then as soon as I was old enough to drive, I got a job here. And I used to work, my first time here was Christmas. So I worked in the home department. Then I moved to lingerie very quickly on there. Then to concessions, and then to bridal.
Oh, wow.
Loved bridal. Bridal is
bet.
just such an amazing place to be with people when they're, in those happy moments. And I never once I think I was there for about 2 years, I never once tried on a wedding dress.
What stage of your life was that girl at then?
I would have been around 18, maybe a little bit, no, 17. It was when I first started driving. That was after Sylvia's. While I was at Sylvia's, I still worked in the florist in Ingatestone, and I loved it. That little bit of, and in fact, actually, the florist, I literally went there on my 13th birthday, and was like, "I'm 13, I would like a job." And Valentine's Day was 2 weeks later, so they literally had me in pretty much straight away in the deep end, working in a florist on Valentine's Day. It was epic. Although on the first day, when I went in to ask them for a job, I told them my name, and so I said, "Mom, my name's Giovanna, but my friends call me G." They went, "Oh, well, we can't call you that. Can we call you Joe?"
Why couldn't they call you that?
I don't know. But so for anyone working in the florist, I was Joe.
Now, Somewhere else you studied that we haven't touched on is a college in Bexley.
Yeah, in Sidcup, Rose Bruford.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, do you know Rose Bruford as well?
I got in there.
Ah.
And weirdly enough, I turned it down, which I actually regret.
What year was that?
Oh, 1999, 2000, 2001.
Oh, we would have been there at the same time. I went 2003.
No.
Yeah, you would have been in my top year. Oh, yeah. So I had basically on these. So I went back to the Anglo to do my A levels as promised. Although I would say got a bit waylaid with mates and hanging out. So there were only 2 drama schools actually available through UCAS at that point. And so I auditioned for Rose Bruford and just loved it. I loved that they had this uber, at the time, modern building with like all these glass panels and big splashes of colour, and this very old building on a river. It was so beautiful, and I just felt like this peace there when I went there. And then I got a phone call to say, okay, you're in. And I was like, whoa, it's incredible, okay. And they were like, so we'll see you this September.
And were you conscious? So when I was auditioning for Rose Bruford, I mean, it was so hard to get into.
Yeah.
Were you aware of like how big it was to be picked or not, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when, drama school, they pick so few people to get in, to get those places. And how actually you getting a place means that someone believes in you, and sometimes, things don't go your way and it's just that day. Maybe something happened to that person that day and actually they're not in the mood, or something happened between that panel or something. It's not always you. But yeah, I think I knew it was a big deal, and I knew how special that place was. And, I think at the time, every idea that I had of what drama school would be like, because obviously Sylvia's is a very different kettle of fish, and it's getting you ready for like a broader career, I would say, in the industry. People go off to lanes and do like various things that sometimes go more dance-led or whatever. Whereas Rose Bruford was an acting degree. Like, it was very much like a straight, like, I want to take this bit really seriously. So yeah, it was huge getting in there. And that's where I would say that I made a couple of lifelong friends at Sylvia's, and I made a whole bunch of lifelong friends at Rose Bruford. Yeah, it was just the best times. Like, I look back at that stage and the things that, going to Sylvia's, going to Rose Bruford, and I think it instills in my mind even more so that actually conventional education isn't always the right way for everyone. Yeah. And, you've got to really find a way that for you celebrates who you are and is able to turn those passions into your superpower, rather than kind of just constantly trying to squash them and telling people to sit down, pay attention, write on this piece of paper. For some people, it's just not that. They need to be high kicking across the room. I absolutely agree. Proper star girl through and through, right? You just keep dropping them in, don't you? Today, we are driving a fully electric Mercedes-Benz EQE. What do you think, now that we've spent a little bit of time riding in it? I really like her. I think she's very, very cool. I approve. And your parents used to have a Mercedes, right? And used to go on road trips in it. Yes, we absolutely did. It wasn't like this. It felt more like I would say more like a tank compared to this nice, sleek and sexy car. Yeah, we used to go to Italy every summer in it. Do you think that old Mercedes is still running? I mean, I'd be surprised. I feel like it was an L reg, but you never know. Did you know that if you wanted something similar, there are 177 pre-2000s Mercedes saloons listed on Auto Trader in the last 12 months? So you never know. It could be there. It could be one of them. I'm going to have a look. Have you driven an electric car before? Yes, I have an electric car. I love electric. And actually, I think as the years go on, they're getting better and better. Like, they drive further. They're just... Yeah, it's amazing what technology is doing. And remember, you can find brand new electric cars ready to roll, just like this one, on Auto Trader. Shall we continue with the show? Let's. Right, back to Ingatestone we go. Yep. Via Hylands Park, the location of V Festival for almost 30 years. And McFly have been on the bill for, 3 times, right? Yeah. That's not bad, I guess you've seen them play there, have you? Oh yeah, every time. And there's that whole thing. I love the fact that I've got Essex roots. I feel so proud of it. You know, whenever I see people on TV from Essex, I'm like, yes. And so the fact that V Festival was in Chelmsford always felt like a massive thing. Like it was on the route that I used to take from home to Debenhams or to Chelmsford for a night out. That was where Hylands Park is. So you do feel that sense of nostalgia. So then bringing Tom and the guys there, you're like, yeah, this is my field. You know?
What does Tom make of this area?
He loves Essex. My dad still lives in Southend, actually, or Thorpe Bay, so he's down there. So, yeah, we love a bit of Essex still.
I mean, if traffic wasn't so bad in central London, we could have journeyed around there with you, couldn't we? Because of all your London life experiences, like your theatre schools, where you got married. Tom proposed to you in London. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, at the time, they were filming a documentary for Channel 5. It was McFly on the Wall. And Tom had messaged me one day and said they want to do a part of it, they want to go back to all of our old schools. And he said, but seeing as you and me went there together, would you mind, like they were wondering if you wanted to come with me? And then we can kind of walk around and we can talk on our way around and it'll be really, you know, a bit more natural and stuff. I was like, yeah, great. What a lovely idea. And so I went along. And not one part of me thought it was going to be a proposal, like not one part. And I can remember I got to the school and there was a front door and a back door. And I think he takes me away saying, go around to the back door. So I went, and it was the old school. So by that point, Sylvia's had moved. The old building was a building site, like it had been taken over by someone else. Walls had been knocked down, it was dusty. So I got there and the back door was on the latch. And I opened it and I could instantly see candles and petals. So I just shut the door. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? I think I texted him and he was like, come on in, come on up. So I walked in and there were just like candles everywhere. Rose petals had been scattered amongst all the dust. It was the most beautiful thing ever. And then Tom was stood in what would have been Studio One. And so my first day of Sylvia's, maybe this is a bit of important information, I met Tom on my first day at Sylvia's, sat in Studio One in assembly, and he'd basically sort of gone to where the spot where we met, that spot was clean, and it was all set up so that, yeah, he was there, flowers everywhere, candles everywhere. So he proposed in Studio One in the spot where we first met at school.
Oh my gosh.
It was
and did he get down on one knee?
Absolutely.
What happened?
Well, the first thing he told me was, it's just us, there are no cameras.
Oh.
So just to let me know, this isn't part of the TV show, it's us, it's private. I have no idea what he said. I think is that quite normal, not to know what was said in that moment?
Yeah,
I feel like
I think so.
It's, yeah, just he said some nice words. And then we sat there and had champagne for a bit, and we went from there to the Ivy, just because every year for our anniversary we would go to the Ivy, so it felt like it was very fitting to go there. And I can remember very randomly, like no one ever really used to stop, they did used to stop us, but they never used to do this. This lady came out of the Ivy, and there was a pap there, but he never, we weren't the kind that got papped all the time. And this lady came out and she said hello to Tom. She was with her daughter, said hello to Tom, and she put her hand on my arm and ran her hand down my arm to hold my hand and went, oh, is that new? To my ring. And then the pap was like, is it? And he just started taking photos. And we were like, oh my God, we haven't told anyone.
Oh gosh.
Like, I haven't phoned my parents or anyone. Like, no one knows.
No.
So we then spent our nice romantic meal in the Ivy texting people just to make sure that they knew.
Wow.
But it was all very, aside from that, it was all very, very romantic. And I was literally up all night looking at wedding venues and honeymoon destinations and when. And I think I always thought I would get married in the country and be surrounded by fields and flowers. But when we were looking around and kind of thinking about what we actually wanted and where everyone was based, going to London made sense.
Right.
And actually the venue that we had we could just fill it with flowers. And flowers are so important to me because of working at the florist. So it was just simply gorgeous.
The story of McFly's song All About You at Stargirl is fairly well known.
Yes.
Is it true that he wrote it in 10 minutes for you?
Yeah, on the toilet apparently.
What?
Yeah. So Valentine's Day was coming up and he hadn't got me anything. So he thought, I'll just write her a song. And so he wrote it and then he actually recorded it. At the time, the boys were living in a band house on the high road in Whetstone. And Danny had a studio. So he literally just went down and made like a little demo of this song, all like a cappella, like a male harmony group, if you like. But it was all Tom doing these different parts. And he handed it to me for Valentine's Day. And then after that, Comic Relief got in touch. Richard Curtis got in touch with Tom and was like, we'd really love you to do the Children Need the Comic Relief single this year. And said, have you got anything that would work? And Tom was like, well, my girlfriend doesn't mind. This might work. And then they absolutely loved it. And it turned into like a huge song. Raised millions for Comic Relief.
Whenever you listen to it, you're like, it is all about me.
You know what? I think when was it? About 2 years ago, for the first time ever, I was stood side of stage and Tom pulled me out on stage to sing All About You. There were the crowd. I just were like, this is absolutely ridiculous.
You have written
Yeah.
a few books with Tom.
Yes.
How does that play out?
Well, we were both writing separately anyway. So I'm on my 13th book now.
That is incredible.
But me and Tom basically, so I was writing and Tom was writing children's books. So he was writing picture books first and then went into children's. And I'd basically gone and visited a friend. It was pre me having kids. I'd gone to visit a friend who had just had a baby. And she just said in passing how everyone in her NCT group had boys. Then I came home and me and Tom were talking about it. And we were like, well, what does that ever happen? Like, does that ever happen that there's an hour where only boys are born, or a day, or like at what point does it become a thing? And it just became that thing we were always talking about. We spoke about it to friends, and then when we'd see them next, they'd ask us about it again, and we're like, I think there's a book in this. So we decided to turn it into a trilogy. We've written 2 of them, and the third one is still very much in the making. It's in the writing. But yeah, it was a really interesting thing figuring out how you write together as 2 authors who already have their way of doing things. Like I was always very much, I used to know my first third. So I'd have that quite planned. I'd know what my concept was. I know also where I wanted them to land in the end. But then after they got to that first third, I'd just kind of let my characters fly and see what happened and just enjoy the journey of them getting to the end.
Wow.
But when you're writing with someone else, you kind of have to know every beat. And Tom writes, actually, he writes so he knows every beat that he's hitting along the way. Then writing with Tom and realising we had to plan because the way that we did the first book was that I would write the character Eve, he would write Bram, and the story would bounce from one to the other where, so we had to plan what we were seeing when and whose version of events, who was best to see this part of the story from and things like that. So I actually really enjoyed the planning, and then I really enjoyed writing it together. And also that feeling of there's so many parts to writing a story anyway, like you start with so many ideas, and you think your idea is good, otherwise you wouldn't be turning it into a book, and so does your editor, because I always run it past her, and then you get to writing it, and there's a point in that writing where you're like, oh no, this isn't great, I'm not sure, and you have to kind of work through it. But at that point it's not great, I would have to hand it over to Tom. Kind of be like, this is where we're at. But you know that you push through those moments and a few tweaks and you're just like, yes, this is working and it's brilliant. It's just the creative process, right? Nothing always stays that this is the most amazing idea. You've got to work at it to get it to where you want it to be and what it deserves to be. So there was a lot of trust. Then we had some creative differences at times, but they were always quite minuscule because we'd done the planning. There was one point where I'd done something quite drastic. One of the characters had done something quite brutal. And Tom went, "No, it's too far. You've taken it a bit too far." And I was like, "Okay, fine." Or I probably didn't say okay, I was probably a bit snappy about it. I was like, "Fine, I'll rewrite it." So I took it out. 2 chapters later, his character's only gone and done that. So I was like, "What?" And in the end, the editor took it out, so it was fine. They agreed that it was too far.
Right. They were on your side.
Yeah. But I always said to myself, I would never class myself as an author until I'd written 3 books. And so then I hit 3 books, and I just can't believe that I'm now on book 13.
It's such an achievement.
Yeah, I loved reading. I just loved having my nose in a book.
Tell me more about your podcasting life. You've been presenting Happy Mum, Happy Baby for a long time now, and you've built an incredible community. That must make you feel so proud, creating such a safe place for mums to discuss such a range of topics that just aren't discussed elsewhere.
Yeah, and it came off the back of a book, right? So I'd been writing fiction for a long time, and once I had buzz, so many people were like, "So are you going to write non-fiction? Are you going to write about being a mum?" And I was a bit like, I'd read so many books about how to do everything right, and actually they'd just confused me because he hadn't read any of them. And so, you know, when I know only one of you's read the thing, it's not going to work. I thought, well, if I am going to write a book about motherhood, I want it to be very honest. And honestly, on this book tour, it was the most incredible thing to sit there in like theatres full of women or rooms full of women and having everyone kind of nodding along and agreeing, and that feeling of, oh my gosh, it's not just me, it's not just you. Like, we all feel this way or have moments of feeling this way or have felt that way and have carried guilt with us because of it and whatever else. So at the end of that book tour, I just didn't want it to be a thing where it's had its moment, we've had that conversation, and now we move on. And I was listening to a lot of podcasts at the time. So I was listening to a lot of Control Alt Delete, The Guilty Feminist. And I just thought there's something in that. It's something about putting it there. So I wanted other people to come on as the guests and for them to bring their experience, and actually for us all to realise that we're all going through this, and actually rather than putting loads of judgment and shame on other people, we've just got to realise that people are doing their best. And actually if we understand that, then hopefully we can there can be a community and we can support each other rather than bring each other down. But I didn't know, but it's a big thing then to ask those guests to come on and share, especially the first series when, you know, that's a proper leap of faith and trust. And I can remember Emma Willis, I asked her to come and record the pilot with me. And, you know, she's always been really private about her kids and everything like that. And she came on, she cried, and I just thought, yeah, that's it. It's having that vulnerability, it's having that space where people can just chat. And that was kind of the beginning of it all.
You famously had the Princess of Wales on your podcast.
Yes.
Who else have you had on that you've particularly enjoyed speaking to, and why?
Ooh, that's so hard. Like, I can remember having Davina on, and Davina was, she didn't know, that's the thing, like, I wouldn't say that she surprised me, but that feeling of her being so giving. But everyone, you know, I think the episodes where we talk about the more difficult topics are always the ones where you just feel so honoured to be the one that person is sharing that with. Like having Amanda Holden on to talk about Theo, her baby that she had to deliver at 7 months, and the rawness of that, knowing that she's trusting you to put that out there in a way that it's not been out there before. Those are, you know, the big ones that don't leave you. But on the flip side, you have ones that you just cackle the whole way through, and you're just like, I can't believe you just said that. That is like ridiculous and hilarious. But it's that feeling of podcasting, and this is the same but in a different way because you're driving. So therefore, I feel like the pressure is off. Like on my podcast, they've got me like eyeballing them the whole time. Yeah, which is a bit different. But there's that feeling of when you're in the studio with a guest and you've got your headphones on. There's an amazing thing that happens when you are both, like, nothing else outside of those speakers exists. Like, that's where you are. And I can hear your every breath, and I can hear when something catches in your throat. And that is just so, it just intensifies everything in a really brilliant way, actually, because you just feel super connected. And then knowing that actually then filters through to the listener is, it's just brilliant. it never fails to move me when people get vulnerable on the podcast. It never fails, and you're allowing that person to share their experience, which will ultimately help other people who have gone through a similar experience, and help people know how to be around people that have been through that experience. Like, it is an awful thing to live through, miscarriage, baby loss, but it happens. So you can't just sweep it under the rug and not talk about it and expect it to go away. Like, maternal mental health is a massive thing.
Yeah.
The leading cause of death in new mums within the first year is suicide. And that's been that way for a very long time. So, I think the first time I heard that statistic, the podcast was already going. And having mums come over to me when we're out and about and it's that silent, thank you. You're just like, I get it. Because so many of us have been in that place, in that dark place, or, I think we all grow up thinking that motherhood's going to look a certain way.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be a mixture of the Oxo mum meets Maria from The Sound of Music.
Yeah.
And so far I haven't picked up a needle and thread and, made clothes out of curtains.
No.
It's
incredible, and what a community you've made.
Yeah, I just love podcasts. I love the fact that someone can just chat and chat and chat. I will be having hot sweats later when I get out of this car thinking about what I might have said. But it is that thing, right? You just chat.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, and you're not
of the rambling conversation.
Yeah.
It's so lovely. Feels like a nice place to end.
Thank you very much for today. For tonight. It feels like we've been in this car for so long.
In a good way, obviously.
I've enjoyed this road trip. It's been a lovely little trip down memory lane.
Thank you so much for being so honest and raw and wonderful, and enjoying my McFly drop-ins. You noticed all that?
I did. Star going on about you. What else did you throw in?
Memory lane.
Of course. Well done.
Please. That was in there. It's all about you. Obviously was in there. The thing is, just before we started shooting the podcast, and for you guys out there, I was given an envelope to open, and inside the envelope was a challenge that Auto Trader had tasked me with for our social media, that said that I have to drop in, and they gave me like a list of like 10 different song names to get into the podcast.
That's amazing.
Challenge accepted and almost completed. And so we're dropping you back to Ingatestone Community Centre.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Back where it all began.
Thank you. This has been a glorious day.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And have a lovely afternoon.
And you. Keep driving around, chatting, doing you.
Thanks.
See you later.
Take care.
And you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, what a joy that was. I felt so comfortable speaking with Giovanna. Her warmth and attitude was infectious, and I can't help but feel inspired by her story and ambition. What a lovely way to end the series. Show on the Road is a Fresh Air production for Auto Trader. If you've enjoyed watching this episode, then please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. There, you can watch all the drives that we've done this series. Giovanna's had so many varied chapters in her life, hasn't she? And with thousands of brand new cars available and ready to drive away, choosing the vehicle you're going to start your next chapter in couldn't be easier on Auto Trader. We've even got expert reviews and videos to help you find the perfect fit. Find your next car and start your next story on the Auto Trader app or at autotrader.co.uk. This is our last episode of the series, but keep your eye on Auto Trader's social channels for news of future episodes. But for now, I'm Alex Le Gouy. See ya!